consistently said throughout this pandemic that we would review our border settings towards the end of each month and make adjustments as appropriate based on the situation both here in Queensland and in other states. And so that review for this month has said that we can safely shift the border zone, bring more people into the Queensland border zone. There's roughly 152,000 people who live in the 5 local government areas being added to the border zone. These are people who might live in New South Wales, but very often they feel a closer affinity to Queensland. They live closer to Queensland than they do to Sydney. Many of us see these places like Byron and Ballina as local places, and this means that we will be able to travel there. Residents from there will be able to travel here relatively freely for healthcare, for work, to visit family and or friends. These changes will come into effect at 1 a.m. on Thursday, the 1st of October, as our border changes have generally done throughout the pandemic. This is in addition to the adjustments made to delist the ACT as a hotspot that will come into effect at 1 a.m. this coming Friday, and if we have 2 further days of no community transmission, that will bring us to 14 days since that last case was thought to be infectious in the community, and that's the point at which the Chief Health Officer will be able to consider those restrictions that still apply throughout the Brisbane Metropolitan and West Moreton Hospital and Health Service districts. This is all as a result of the fantastic work of Queenslanders, as well as the very low number of cases in northern New South Wales, meaning that we can safely make these adjustments. That's in stark contrast to what's happening in the rest of the world. As the Premier said, we're very concerned about the situation in the United Kingdom, very concerned about the number of new cases across Europe and what that means for the number of deaths there. They're currently projecting up to 200 deaths a day in the UK if this second wave continues as it is currently projected, and sadly that means that our international borders are likely to need to stay closed for the foreseeable future.
So, excellent news. No new cases in Queensland overnight, and if that continues for the next 2 days so that we don't have any community-acquired cases, we'll be able to remove those remaining restrictions that are in place for Brisbane and Ipswich. So hopefully that will happen on Friday as we go into the weekend, and people will again be able to gather in those groups of 30. So we've seen a really good response out there in terms of testing. It's important that although we're not seeing cases, that we need to be alert. So please, everyone, if you have any symptoms at all, come forward and get tested and isolate yourself till you get a result. And that way we will continue to find cases at the start of an outbreak, at the start of a cluster, and be able to get onto them very quickly to minimise the impact on everyone. Thank you.
Morning. In our last 24 hours, we've seen 66 flights met in Queensland. 4,451 passengers have been processed. We refused entry to 2. We intercepted 3,239 vehicles at our road borders, and we turned around and refused entry to 100 persons. We currently have 3,852 persons in hotel quarantine across the state. And I can say, regrettably, as I mentioned yesterday, people are still, in some instances, doing the wrong thing. In the last 24 hours, we've had 2 penalty infringement notices, one for a noisy party at Rosedale in an Airbnb where police attended and there was too many people in attendance there, and also one for a person deliberately lying on his border declaration pass coming out of New South Wales, who was both turned around and issued a $4,000 fine. And also a person intercepted in Townsville who did not cooperate with police but clearly had come out of Victoria, having resided there for the past 12 months. We don't know how that person got into the state. He's not cooperating, but he's been issued with a notice to appear before Townsville Court into the future. So they are the issues at the moment for the case.